Welcome to the Domonique Foxworth Show. I'm Domonique Foxworth. Look at that handsome man there.
Not sure which one you're talking about.
I know, that's the point. That was the point. That's why I put it up to see if one of you reacted. Neither of you reacted.
It felt pejorative.
I'll go with Charlie Kravitz. Handsome man
Good
there,
call,
Charlie Kravitz. Also joined by the great Ben Solak, who is fresh off of his training camp tour. He got me excited. I was looking at him talking about training camps and going to all these places, and I was like, yeah, offseason was great.
We're back.
But we're back.
We're back.
We're just a couple of football guys. I'm heading to Bucks training camp right after this podcast.
Before we get into this, Ben, maybe I shouldn't say this because it might raise expectations, but Charlie's been calling and texting me nonstop, and I'm pretty sure he's much more prepared for the season than I am right now. So
Charlie, why are you
I
going?
need to get.
Why are you going to Bucks training camp? What's there?
Helping Bo Allen, former Eagle, great nose tackle. Get a couple interviews. Baker Mayfield, Rueben Bain, Chris Godwin. Pretty excited.
Heard of him.
Rueben Bain. Is that where we want to start? Because I've been right. I feel right about something, and I love it.
Well, let's explain the conceit.
I wasn't much on a ledge on that one.
Well, let's explain this conceit of it, because you were right, and this is what we're going to get into. But we're just going through a list of, we're in like Hear Something season, where it's all camp news. You better look good in shorts and shells. You better look good in your first padded practices, or it's kind of bad news. But we have some positives, we have some negatives of things we're excited about or things we're intrigued by from training camp. The first one being, Dominique, do you want to get into your Rueben Bain stuff? Because we just have seen the video of him eviscerating the promising young Jets tackles for 3 sacks in an inter-squad scrimmage where he was so good that Todd Bowles was like, we've seen enough. You don't have to play in our first preseason game, rook.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm joking a little bit about taking credit for Rueben Bain because, like, he was this in college. Like, he's doing exactly what he did in college in the NFL. There was a bunch of, like, obviously the arm length thing is the reason why he fell down the draft board. I had a hard time understanding why that was enough to push him down. I get it. You're probably better off going with those metrics like 10 out of 10 times, or excuse me, 7 out of 10 times.
10 out of 10, every single one.
7 out of 10 times you'll be good. The point is, you make that decision enough times, you'll be wrong, I guess, most of the time. But Rueben Bain felt like a can't-miss prospect because what he was doing in college. To guys who had long arms, like I think he's going to be able to do it in the NFL. And practicing against Tristan Wirfs and Luke Gedeke, like a really good offensive line in Tampa, I'm sure, gives Todd Bowles the confidence to be like, yeah, he's going up against these guys, then he's going up against real players against the Jets. Like, actually really good young tackles for the Jets and whooping that. I'm just excited about him and his ability, what he's going to do for that team. And this might make them, I don't know. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I think that division is one that we rarely feel confident about. And I think adding a difference maker like that on that defense could really change the fortunes for this season. Who they had bad vibes. They had Vita Vea mad. They had Baker Mayfield mad. Nobody getting paid. The vibe shifted where you got a young boy whipping.
I will say that, like, okay, training camp, clip, hype, season, sick. A lot of this stuff is not going to be real. Team, because the Bucks themselves posted the Rueben Bain sacks, and I was like, all right, if the team is posting them, like, even less likely that this is going to be something substantive that I'm going to care about. But whatever, I'll watch it. It's cool slow motions of Rueben Bain up close. All right, fine, cool. You click on it, and then the first sack, right, is on Membu. You know, that's a pretty good rush, right? And the second clip is on Membu again, and it would have been like a strip sacking game. Like, that's a pretty good rush. Third one is like a stunt and a twist. I'm like, okay, whatever, scrap that one. But the first two, like, no, that's real substantive. That's not fluff. That's not, team social doing their job. Eagles, Quinion Mitchell, Jalen Hurts, drama notwithstanding. That was like, yeah, like that would have been the stuff that would have gotten me out of my seat and making high expectations if I saw it in person in camp. So shout out Bucks social media for actually, like, being honest with, all right, we're going to use our bullet on sending training camp hype clips on actual good clips. And yeah, Rueben Bain, the not seeing him in the preseason stinks because you want to see him do it in a game action. But instead of having to like read a beat reporter and assume that they've got like the right read and the right kind of gauge on how impressive those reps were, I got to actually see him and they were pretty good.
I think it's a really interesting thing of what he could be for that defense and how the team identity is changing. I saw this anecdote from Larry Foote, who said that when the Bucks met with Rueben Bain at the combine,
Larry
and
Foote's their linebackers coach now.
Yep. while they were watching tape at the combine, and they were basically asking him, what are you doing on this X, Y, and Z? And they were floored by how his answers were about he knew the coverage behind him and the linebacker responsibilities. And he said that gave him a better sense of what the quarterback's hots were going to be, how they're going to work through the progression, and how that would affect his rush strategy. And they're like, that's just way wise beyond his years. And this is someone who in Todd Bowles' defense might move around a lot, because he's raved that Bowles has given him the freedom to do a lot of stuff. And almost a third of his rushes while he was at Miami were moving inside, and he's uniquely good at pass rushing against guards. And this is a team that they haven't had a 10-sack guy since 2021. And Yaya Diaby is being like, hey, we're going to be a 50-sack team this year. And he's, someone who hasn't been able to convert pressures into sacks, but is really good at getting pressures. Well, you add Bain to this, you try and rebuild the running game on offense with Zach Robinson, and suddenly you're like a completely nasty physical team in a way that they hadn't been last year. And to your point, Domonique, it's like when you have the young guy like this, I assume for like everyone else, they got to be like, we got a guy.
Yeah. Now, it feels that way. And I think the point that Ben was making about how some of these clips are just hype and they don't mean anything, the same could be said about some of these quotes. But there are some different types of attitude in quotes. And I feel like it's hard to completely contextualize, but you get a different feel when you read certain things and you hear things. And I think the idea that there are some unique quotes, like the Larry Foote quote, it's not something you hear very frequently about any player, let alone a defensive lineman. Then on top of it, the idea that you mentioned Bowles was like, yeah, we've seen all we need to see, and we're going to sit him down. And just generally, all the comments coming out of there it's very much like, yeah, it's a confidence that's coming out of there that makes me feel good. And to your point, Ben, I'd like to hear at some point if we can decipher what those, like the fluff quotes are and the fluff clips that are sent out there that we know don't really work, and there's no fluff in that right on cue clip. That guy's great.
The Larry Foote quote immediately brings me to the Jason Taylor of it all, right? When you're coached by an ex-NFL lineman, he's just going to tell you things that I think you're going to get less from collegiate guys who are trying to be defensive coordinators who are like working their way up through the ranks. And that like, hey, care about what the coverage is behind you because you'll have a better sense of where the hots are, so you'll know where to put your hand up to get one more pass break up is so like NFL veteran coded that like, it just screams, Jason Taylor was in his ear. It's one of the reasons to like him and like Mesidor, who's the other kid out of Miami who's having a really good camp with the Chargers, because they spent time under an ex-NFL guy who like gives them habits and gets banging that into their heads earlier than some of these other guys get, and that's what you can get a fast runway in the NFL.
I mean, you want to go from one short arm guy who is blowing up the league to another. I mean, I'm getting way ahead of myself. We haven't had a real game yet.
Blowing up the league.
Maybe not blowing up the league. Yeah. Who is currently getting buzz that we respect, the good type of buzz. Cashius Howell. I know Charlie is big on Cincinnati in their future, particularly because the way that he thinks their defense is going to be reshaped. Charlie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this was another one I was looking at, like the hype around this. Okay, it's part the defense, but it's not them being like a great defense. Right. It's bringing in Dexter Lawrence. It's maybe you get a little bit more out of Shamar Stewart this year. I know he had the knee injury, but he was so raw last year. Cashius Howell, who had even shorter arms than Rueben Bain. I can't remember who the quote was, but they're like, we got to steal. And it's like, well, he's a second-round pick, so you're saying he's a first-rounder, which is very good. And then the easiest schedule in the league and Burrow being healthy. And I look at this being a situation where a Bengals improved defense really makes it so if that offense is as potent as it's been in years past, this could be like finally their year where we're not looking at them and they're 7-9 going into the last week of the season being like, can they win one more game? Can 8 teams lose? And can they make the wild card in that spot? Like this could be the most, and I know Burrow says it's the most complete roster, but it's actually like very positive vibes that their defensive line, their front seven is so much improved from last year. And the interesting is they don't need to be great. They just need to be less. And the Cashius Howell and the Dexter Lawrence of it all seems like they're on the right track there.
Do you have any idea how good a defensive tackle has to be in training camp to be like, this guy's amazing, right? Like, dude, you get like 4 real reps at defensive tackle, right? Because even your like pass rushers, your edge rushers who, okay, we can't contact the quarterback, you can still at least like cleanly smoke the tackle one-on-one. Like, oh, baby, what a rush. In fact, the quarterback, the ball's out. Dexter Lawrence is just like sitting on double teams as per usual, right? In like 11-on-11s. Like, he's going to have, one-on-one pass rush opportunity here or there, but not nearly as many as the edge rushers. And then in like, I would say the vast majority of the running game that you'll see at training camp is going to be at like the install stage, right? There might be some like 9-on-7, but again, like that's something that I think more old school coaches do. I haven't really seen the Bengals do a lot of 9-on-7 in my time there. You don't have a large volume of reps for a defensive tackle to be like, all right, pads are on, live speed, we're making plays. For Lawrence to be having kind of the training camp hype he's having on that small of a menu, to me, stands out a little bit. The Howell thing and like the full Bengals belief in the defense, I feel like I get over my skis if I'm like, yeah, the second round rookie edge rusher who's historically undersized is going to be enough of a needle mover. The idea is like everything in the aggregate, like him, plus Brian Cook, plus Dexter Lawrence, plus year 2 for the linebackers, plus Boye Mafe, like all of this together will have enough of an improvement. And I think that can simultaneously be true. And also, we're going to get to January football and be like, well, the Bengals are pretty good. If they lose a playoff game, it's going to be because of the defense, right? Because that's still just going to be the lesser unit. And so I'm both a believer in Bengals defense and also a, proceed with caution, don't yet empty the gas tank on the Bengals overall team, because the defense can both get better and still be an issue in the playoffs. That's just how bad it was last year.
I probably should have mentioned Boye Mafe and Brian Cook before Cashius Howell. That's a great cleanup by you.
I don't think so, because I think those, we know what they are. We know what to expect. Yeah. I think the Dexter Lawrence thing, I wouldn't call it a surprise, but I think being reminded that he has that ability to be one of the best in the league at this age, and after having a bit of a letdown season, that's important. I think that's the obvious headline, because when you have a player like that who is that type of a difference maker, it makes everybody around them better. The other players, I think you expect them to show up, but they aren't like, they will change your defense, but they aren't needle movers the way Dexter Lawrence is. And then having a surprise, like, I'm not sure what your ceiling is type of player, which Cashius Howell is showing right now. And the quote that you were talking about the steal came from Jonathan Allen. And he said he was a steal.
Also on the team now.
Yes, also on the team now. And I think Orlando Brown Jr., the tackle that Cashius Howell completely ran through, said Cashius Howell had unique body language. And that was the big highlight. That was one of those training camp videos where he ran through the tackle and made it seem easy, and his short arms didn't seem to matter. But I do think that's important. And you are right. Like, yeah, this defense just has to get, at least the conversation is, we expect offense to be sticky and continue to be as good as it's been or close to it. The defense has to get better, right? And it doesn't have to get that much better in order to make this team competitive, but it doesn't make them a favorite in the way that adding Myles Garrett to the Rams, let's say, would do.
On the topic of, though, like Orlando Brown and John Allen giving the quotes, player about rookie quotes are like my highest ranking for training camp fluff, right? Like I watched Sam Darnold get voted into the top 30 of all NFL players in the NFL top 100 this year. Like when players are like, I believe this fully, I'm always like, okay, I believe that you believe that. Are you watching did you watch any of the other edge rushers in the draft process? Orlando Brown, it's like, it's silly like that, but still, I will buy a Todd Bowles, we don't need to see you in the preseason, a lot harder than I will buy a Jonathan Allen, Cashius Howell.
I was thinking that when I was reading these quotes, is like, players are never going to, and unique body language, not a great compliment, to be fair. Like, he got unique body language.
He got cooked by him, so you a little bit have to, find your way around it.
Yeah, he was just kind of saying that he's small, and it's like, he's sure he got underneath him. But I was thinking that I was reading through these quotes preparing for the show. Like, players are always going to say nice things about other players, especially rookies. So those quotes are high on the fluff meter, I guess. But I like the idea, though, that Cashius Howell will have some sort of impact. And I think it's all Dexter Lawrence related, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's definitely a huge part of it. He's one of the best defensive players in the NFL. I think part of this too is I feel like Patriots pilled a tiny bit from last year. Not to like hammer the schedule stuff into submission, but one of our lessons from last year was that because of the bye and because of the way that the stuff has panned out in the NFL with different travel international, that schedule has become increasingly important. And it just feels like there's a lot of things lining up for the Bengals. They invested in a lot of places they didn't normally invest, and they might have a way better year. And Ben, I saw you picked Burrow to be he's like your preseason MVP pick for this. So like you're sort of on board with this being like, if they're gonna do it, if they're gonna like be a serious outfit, it's this year.
Yeah, and like I think Burrow is at the nice intersection of this feels like a great year for it. The offensive line is the best it's been in the last like probably 4 or 5 years for the Bengals. Running game is pretty solid, and the defense improves. And you say, okay, well, like why does that matter for Burrow MVP? Because typically we give MVP two quarterbacks who are on very winning teams, right? Stafford is the first quarterback in the last 15 years to win it who is not the 1 or 2 seed out of his conference. So you typically just want to find the really high winning teams and then figure out which quarterback on those high winning teams has a narrative arc to it or a statistical arc to it. And obviously Burrow has both because A, they're just going to drop back a ton. So he has the chance to like lead league in passing touchdowns, like all the big boy, counting stats. And then also the narrative arc is just like if it's between him and Stafford again, man, they're going to want to give it to Burrow. He doesn't have one. People want to kind of get those MVPs to players that they think are MVP level players over the course of their careers. So Burrow, I think, is just a smart bet because, like, A, he's very good. He's played at MVP level before. Like, that talent is clearly there. And then B, like, the aligning of the stars kind of makes sense. So I'm a buyer in the Bengals. I just have, like, I think that Super Bowl caliber defense would require every one of their bets hitting, which is not impossible. See Sam Darnold into DeMarcus Lawrence, into Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like Seattle last year was a great example of like, oh, no, like we binked it. Like we flopped the nuts. Let's go. So it can happen, but that's a hard bet to make here in August.
Before we get off of Cashius Howell and the Bengals and the short armness of it, I just want to figure out. I don't know if you got into your draft prep for next year, but there's a short arm pass rusher. I don't know his name. There's got to be a short arm pass rusher who is rooting so hard for Rueben Bain and Cashius Howell to ball out so that they can move up draft boards because it happens every year or every few years. There's a guy who like breaks some sort of like belief and then all of the people in the NFL are like, forget that. That was wrong. Let's go get short quarterbacks now.
There'll be a general manager who's asked at the combine about short arm pass rushers, and he'll give some quote about how, like, actually we've learned that it kind of helps guys get better leverage on their bull rush and get underneath, and then bang, right? Everybody with 29-inch arms. Yep. Now you're going to pass rusher.
Anthony Richardson got that Josh Allen bump. Josh Allen did it. Everyone's like, hey, Anthony Richardson can do it.
The number one kid on the freaks list, on Feldman's freak list, is the South Carolina receiver, Nick Harbor. Who's he's like 6'5", 240 with vines. Buddy, get your hand in the dirt. Why are we playing receiver? Get 3-point stance, Nicholas. He's not a good, statistically, he doesn't seem like a very good pass catcher. We got to get you out to the quarterback, young man. Looks great.
He is an Olympic caliber sprinter. The combine that he is going to, like a real, like actually like potential alternate Olympic guy, what he is going to do to the combine next year is going to be preposterous. Seriously, like all of the charts,
Sonny
all of the
Styles
comparisons. I'm thinking
even better.
I'm thinking low 4.3s, high 4.2s at 240 pounds. Ooh, and if you're an Olympic sprinter, like he's going to go crazy in the broad jump, crazy in the vertical jump, all that stuff. Like no one's going to look better in shorts than Nick Harbor. And this is the teammate of Dylan Stewart, who you talk about pass rushers. He's going to be the exact opposite of Rueben Bain and Cashius Howell. But like
he's the prototype.
And that's that dude being the maybe not the most, Dylan Stewart not being the most athletic 6'5", 240-pound guy in his own team is insane.
Get your hand in the dirt, son.
That was what I said about Kenyon, the injured tight end with the Jets right now. Yeah, I saw him in college. I was like, okay, I see it. Then he ran that time, and I was like, get down there and rush the passer with that body. Like your impact as a tight end, all right, it's cool. Charlie, if you could rush the passer.
Charlie says he's an Olympic caliber sprinter. You know what I hear? He knows how to get out the blocks at that 3-point stance. Baby.
Actually,
those first two steps. And I don't give a hoot about the next 90, but you got the 10? Like that's what I'm looking for.
I remember when he was in high school and those clips would be floating around of this enormous man running past these children. Like, who let this monster into the Maryland high schools? It was absurd. I remember he went to South Carolina. And I might have put up some NIL bucks so to stay and play for the Terps.
Ben, I don't know if you know this. I have a big time kink for South Carolina athletes. Yeah. It's how I was into Eamon Wari, and then I immediately got into Harvard.
Could have guessed, somehow. I don't know.
But he automatically qualified for the 200 at the Olympic trials, then chose not to do it to make sure he was at summer football. So he actually he is an Olympic level sprinter. Speaking of receivers, we can pivot to this because I think this is one of the more interesting topics coming from camp, and it's not one guy. It's just that we've been on the young receiver hype train this training camp, which I think is, you talk about positions that can really flash at camp. Receiver is one of them. Yep. But we've heard Denzel Boston out of Cleveland where people are like, this guy is the second coming.
Not just people are saying that. Ben Solak is saying that. He's getting a lot of hype for a guy who's going to be catching passes from...
I tend to try to be really careful on my training camp hype meters, because usually I'm at a place for like 1 or 2 days, right? And then I'm on to the next spot. So you catch kind of a good day, a bad day, and then you're kind of stuck in that eval. Last time I watched a rookie just run a practice in terms of how frequently he was getting the ball, how much he was the first read, how reliably he was catching, how reliably he was winning, was Sam Laporta in 2023 with the Lions. I remember walking away from the Lions game being like, okay, that guy's immediately going to be productive. Like, you just like tell he's NFL size, NFL quickness, NFL routes. He's, hands catch technique is great, and the quarterback trusts him. Denzel Boston running with the ones. Deshaun Watson was throwing with the ones that day, and I think Deshaun's probably going to start the year. I mean, Denzel Boston just very clearly is the player that Deshaun wanted to throw the football to. Denzel understands how to separate against NFL caliber corners with height, with speed, with length, with size, with physicality. Like, there's sometimes where it's as plain as the nose on your face. You just look at the guy like, oh, NFLer. Yep, the other rookies, like Casey Concepcion, he looked great. He looked fine. Like, had a nice day. Boston's the guy that immediately just like, if you've watched a year of football, you can tell what they look like, and that's what the guy looks like. So Boston to me is like just sign, seal, and deliver. That guy's gonna be a good pro.
So he's now part of this group though with, okay, your buddies from the Ringer Fantasy Show, they've been hyping Jayden Higgins a lot. And he's not a rookie. He's a second-year wide receiver. He's the first pick in the second round for the Texans. Presumably will be the number 2 across from Nico Collins. Nico Collins said that he's talented enough to be the face of that team, of the Texans team, which they have a lot of defensive faces. Then there's Jacoby Lane out of Baltimore, who's like the contested catch specialist, who's actually kind of shockingly fast, who people are hyping up. I think Jamison Hensley said he was like he hadn't seen a receiver like that, a rookie receiver like that in camp ever in his time. And then Deshaun Stribling, who is in San Francisco, apparently he's looked very good. He was, Ben, we did a sleeper show before the NFL draft. He was one of my sleepers, and I thought he was going to go in the 3rd or 4th round, and then he ended up going at the top of the second round.
Yeah.
But, the 49ers are delighted with him so far, and he's going to have a huge role with Parasol out, and they said that he was the number 1 receiver on their board before the draft. Boston, very easily could be the best football player of this group, but they all have different roles and different offenses. And I'm wondering what you guys think, because like we get this hype every year, but do you think any or a few of these guys will be impact receivers on their team this season? Because some of these teams are guys that really need receiver help and could be transformative to that offense.
Yeah, I'm a believer in the Boston thing, but I do think the Boston situation is such that is he that good? Is he that good that we're going to be like, that he's going to put up numbers? Because that happens. Like, they're guys who put up good numbers on bad teams. I don't know if he's that good in that situation, but they're not going to be like contenders. So that story will be just about him and his success. I think the Jacoby Lane thing is interesting. I don't think I believe in it as much as people want me to believe in it, but these are also my own priors. Like, I know he has enormous hands, and I've seen tapes of him catching, and he does these incredible catches, but we've talked about this for all the years that we've done this show. Charlie and I have this conversation, and how bigger receivers who don't really move well they don't excite me as a player. Right. And this is my own bias. I've been wrong about it a number of times. Big receivers who could also move, which I think Higgins is an example of that. He's a big dude, and then you watch him run routes, and you're like, oh, okay. It feels great. But I was watching Jacoby Lane, and all of his catches, I'm like, yeah, that's hell of a catch, but why that dude right next to you? Every time is a dude on your back.
Jacoby was the one who, Jacoby was a middle round pick because the Jacoby film at USC was just not super great, right? There was just not a lot of separation there. Now, there was a lot of narrative around Jacoby in terms of effort levels at USC and coaching staff interest and recruiting process. And there were some off the field, just different people had different opinions about him. Not sure it was the best situation for him. Not sure there was as much belief in him as there could have been. And so there's a chance this is like a diamond in the rough guy who just feels a lot better now that he's outside of that program versus a guy like Denzel Boston who, Boston goes top of round 2. We've seen that round 1 to round 2 turn be a spot for a lot of receivers in recent years. And Boston, Jacoby's struggling to separate at USC. Boston was returning punts at one point for Washington, right? You don't put the big guy back there who can't move. You're like, we'll just let him return. No, you have to have a certain level of tackle breaking, of gears in order to earn that role. And so Boston, I feel like, had signs that he was the caliber of athlete necessary. Because I very much agree with you, Domonique, that it's easy to fall for big receivers at the college level who they can so dramatically outstrength the corners that they're facing. They get in the NFL, they lose that ace in the hole, and they have nothing behind, and then those guys just kind of fall right to the wayside. What's always tricky about it is it is like clearing a bar, right? It's the sort of thing where, if you're just below it, you're not going to be able to hang at the NFL, and if you're just above it and you can separate just enough, boom, you have a legitimate role. Like you're there. Like you're part of the rotation.
Especially with the speed that he has, the uncommon speed for someone that size.
Yeah, and so if I think Boston, if he's somewhere on the Michael Pittman Jr. to Drake London spectrum, where it's like, all right, at the very least, like this guy's just going to be able to post up for us on slants and on curls and on third downs and in the red zone, just win with size and win with catching away from his frame, great. And then all of a sudden, if he's Drake and it's like, oh no, this guy can like drop kick every corner in the league and also run away from a dude or two, then all right, like that, it's going to be hard just for Boston not to be productive. And so Lane, I also take with a little bit of a kernel of uncertainty. I think Jayden coming out was he was a 4-3 athlete, right? He was just like a raw player who needed technical work. And so it makes sense in year 2 that there's going to be a leap for him. I'm a big buyer in Boston. And then Stribling was one who I just think that nobody calibrated to him well when he got drafted because we just all discovered him late in the process. Like there was just not a lot of draft coverage people, draft nicks, beat nicks from like the, Mel Kipers all the way down who were just talking about a guy like DeJon Stribling until a couple weeks out. And those like super late breakers who like the league is trying to keep them under wraps and we don't really start talking about them till late, they always end up being too criticized of a pick because just not enough people know their names, and all the 49ers fans who were reading mock drafts in February had never heard of him before, and like that guy just gets a level of scrutiny. He's got height, weight, speed, and he's playing in an offense where if you can run 4 routes, Kyle can get you the ball. Like if he's going to be good, he's going to have the opportunity to develop as long as he stays healthy.
And their injuries and that place is going to need weapons.
What place? What place specifically with the injuries, Domonique, you talk about?
Oh, the Bay Area.
By the way, you brought up the Denzel Boston punt returns. Mm-hmm. My football awakening was when the Commanders drafted LeVar Arrington, and in a preseason game when he was a rookie, they ran a kick return reverse to him.
Yeah.
And he was 6'4", 260 pounds, running a 4.4, and seeing him take it like 50 yards down the sideline before he got pushed out of bounds, I was like, this is the sport for me. I need to become obsessed with this. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yep, good take.
The other Jacoby Lane comp is like Michael Thomas is the guy that he himself like models his game after, and I think that is being aware of your blind spots as you attempt to evaluate and prepare is something that I think helps me in this case. Is like, I know that I can be wrong about these guys. Like I've seen this type of body type work, and with his big hands and his ability to catch the ball and his ability, the speed combined with that size, like it shouldn't be that hard to find a way to be productive with a guy like that who, to your point, running a slant, which like you think of Michael Thomas reminds me of running slants, but like his body is so big and he runs slants and he's so sure-handed that, yeah, that's a route that could work for him. You combine that with the fact that he should be able to threaten people deep because, again, his ball skills are good and he's faster than you would expect. Like, there's a role for a player like that. And those two routes, I think, are enough to threaten that you can do other things off of it. I'm not sure if it's going to help this offense that much right away because it kind of feels like a guy that you can't just throw out there and, like, this is the offense and you make it work. It kind of feels like a guy that you have to kind of plan to get the ball for, which I'm not sure they're going to do with a guy who they expended that little draft capital on.
That makes sense. But I do, to pivot to the other one, the Higgins one, in a bigger picture of this, like, Domonique, I know the Texans are one of the teams you looked at, you're like, this team can win the Super Bowl this year. Truly. And like they brought back all the defensive starters. Defense got even better. It's nasty on that side of the ball. And I think a lot of the smart football people we know are like, don't over-index C.J. Stroud's playoff performance. It was one game. He was actually better last year than you realize. Sorry, it was 2 games. Yes.
Ben, we do that every time. Every time we talk about C.J. Stroud, we say one playoff game, and then either Charlie corrects me or I correct him and say, no, it was 2. It was
Which
really bad.
Which does feel worse than 1, but you can also still make the same don't over-index argument.
So we're not over-indexing on those 2 playoff games. It was actually better last year than people think. And it's like, if Higgins does pan out, if Higgins and Nico Collins are healthy and that defense is what we think it is, obviously they've had offensive line issues, but are you looking at this like, it's sort of the anti-Bengals where it's like, if they have any explosion on offense, if they have any juice on that side of the ball and Higgins is a part of that, is that someone who's like really like a ceiling changer for what the Texans are?
100%. Yeah. Texans were my pick last year. And I would think I was just like hopefully a year early on the Nick Caley offense. But when I go to like make my checklist for postseason teams, like can you actually make a run? One of the big things I look for is like, okay, on offense you got to have a guy, and then you got to have a guy, right? You need to have a dude and then a second dude, because in postseason football we get really, really highly specific game plans on both sides of the ball. So if you walk in with Nico and your next most scary player in terms of who's getting the football on offense is like David Montgomery, then buddy, like they're going to get Nico out of the game plan. They're going to get Nico out of the game. They're going to expend resources you haven't seen in the regular season to get the ball away from Nico, and they're going to make somebody else beat you. So last year for the Seahawks, that was like a little bit of a question coming in, and then Kenneth Walker had such a big breakout postseason, right? Really stepped up to the plate. So it's not even that Jayden Higgins needs to have a 1,000-yard season for me to believe it. But if by the time we get to the end of year 2 regular season for Higgins, he's clearly enough of a big play talent and a high volume talent. He can take a 8-target game, 10-target game, 12-target game. If he can be that, then right, you have a guy and you have a guy. You have a dude, and then you have the dude you can rely on if the first dude gets taken away. And so Higgins, I think, is first up in that pecking order for the Texans in terms of who's going to emerge, right? Jalen Noel is there. Tank Dell is back from injury. Go. Right? Like they've got multiple irons in the fire, which is how you want to do it. But Higgins is first on that list of, man, if you've got a 6'3", 220 guy running on one side of the formation, and then the other 6'3", 220 guy on the other side, that becomes a bit... Usually defense has only got one dude for those guys, one body type of corner. It's very rare to find a defense that has 2 body types that can kind of get there in that. So that's what the avenue the Texans want to take on offense.
The body type is huge. It matters, of course. It makes everything more difficult. But when you watch Higgins run routes, like... they are routes that have a level of understanding and technique that makes it difficult. Like, that's the part that I think is impressive, that separates him from just like, big guy, fast guy. That's something, but I think there are some things that could take you a little level up. And I think the Tank Dell, I was waiting for you to bring him up because I was going to bring him up. Like, we thought his career was over. And you see the clips of him now, like, he's not fully back, but like you see him now and you're like, it looks good. Like, who knows what the future holds? I don't want to get ahead of myself, but that's another option. If you think of those 2 guys and you also are able to put Tank Dell in there and impact this in some way, like this offense becomes pretty threatening in a way. And C.J. Stroud can attack down the field. Like, that's something that he does well. This offense becomes pretty threatening, especially when you have a defense that's gonna put you in position to play well, assuming that, well, I don't have to assume anything. I know that defense is going to be good.
Yeah. I'm really worried the Reed Blankenship edition. Well, whatever. Nah,
I can't wait, man. Like, that was some of the most
McDonald
fun.
too.
Some of the most fun football I watched last year was watching those Texas guys play defense. I cannot wait for that. There's another receiver that, so Cyrus Allen is the other receiver.
Oh, yeah? Are we drinking the Kool-Aid?
No, we're not drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm using Cyrus Allen to get me into a Kansas City conversation because I assumed this year was a wash for them as soon as Mahomes got hurt. Then they traded away their cornerbacks, traded one away and let the other one walk. And the team just got really bad and really old. And I was like, they're done. And there's a chance. Because if they nailed this draft, which, like, all right, Mansour Delane hasn't been healthy, but he should be back for week 1. If he's as good as the projections say, that changes the defense. And then Charlie's man, Peter Wood. Like, if he's as good as the preseason hype suggests, the defense gets a lot better. And Cyrus Allen is the name that I brought up because he stepped up in this situation while the other receivers are unhealthy. But this core changes if Rashee Rice is back and healthy and performing, if Xavier Worthy is back and healthy and performing, and I mean, maybe Thornton or Cyrus Allen is productive. It's just all reports suggest that Mahomes looks similar to how he always looks, which is not an explosive athlete. It just kind of for a second, Simmons is there at tackle. He's actually there and playing. Like, this team, the complexion of this team changes a little bit if these draft picks hit. Just a little bit.
So only like 5 or 6 ifs. We only had to do 2 hands worth of ifs to get there on the Kansas City Chiefs. 3 of which were wide receiver ifs in a row.
No, only one.
You said if Rashee Rice is back and healthy, if Xavier Worthy is back and healthy, and if Cyrus Allen and Tyquan Thornton also got in there as well. So it's just the whole depth chart that we're worried about. All
right, fine. I'm wrong. Okay, yeah, there you go. Let's talk about
believe. You want to believe, and like it's okay. I want to believe too. Like, because I look at this and like this is what I think is interesting is, okay, Eric Bieniemy left. He went on a little bit of an adventure. He went to Washington. He ended up in Chicago. He was part of the Ben Johnson resurgence with the running game last year when we saw Monangai and DeAndre Swift break out as the running backs coach. Now he's back in Kansas City. They bring in Kenneth Walker. I do think, Dominique, your point about Josh Simmons, like if he's healthy, I think he's an impact player for that line, and things get a lot better for them. But Andy Reid has had trouble going outside of his guys to change what they do, and he had been such an offensive innovator, and it felt like Kansas City's offense was a little bit stale. They hadn't been explosive in the same way they had been with Tyreek Hill, even winning 2 Super Bowls. Well, it's like now the identity could shift to a bit of a power running game. You can support Mahomes with the run a little bit more with Kenneth Walker. The rookie last year, Brashad Smith, had some juice. I know he's certainly not. Neither one of those are like ultra powerful guys, but it was a nice intermediate step from Andy to be like, oh, Eric Bieniemy's one of my guys. I can bring him back, but he's also bringing back a tiny bit of Ben Johnson DNA, a tiny bit of the DNA that's like kind of becoming the in vogue offense in the NFL. And that does intrigue me of like, if they had just rolled out the same thing that they were doing in years past, I would have been like, okay, they might be really good because they have Patrick Mahomes, but this is like the least exciting way they could be really good. An incremental change on the offense scheme wise, to me, like who when you have like an actual genius at quarterback, how that manifests is something that I'm genuinely interested in watching.
Yeah, I agree with that. I want to see just how big of a change it is. Like you said, incremental. I'm hoping we get a little bit more than incremental, right? In terms of like, to actually be able to get this in your identity, you got to be able to, build counters and get into it and get out of it and actually have it be like more than just a chapter in the playbook. What I will give you on Cyrus Allen, Dominique, because I'm like, I do think that there's a clear role for him, which is that even before like Rasheed was hurt and Rasheed had all of his off-field stuff and his arrests and what have you, Rasheed was a guy who was unbelievable against zone coverage and didn't show up against man coverage, right? Because they use him as this kind of like big-bodied slot. He sits down between zones and it's great. Well, teams responded by being like, all right, well, we're going to play man. We think we can get tight to this guy and we can force you to throw tight windows. Xavier Worthy was supposed to be your man answer, but he's 170 pounds soaking wet, and we just feel like we can body this guy off of his line. If Cyrus Allen, who like not the biggest guy, and he doesn't have incredible long speed, but he is quick as a wink, and he's got really nice routes. If he can be your just like, your Julian Edelman 3rd and 6, we're going to build get 4 or 5 in the concept just to give you an option route, just to give you a two-way go, wiggle, catch the football, pick up 8 yards, we get a new set of downs. That's a big deal for the Chiefs. As previously constructed, they were getting to a lot of 3rd and 5s. And when you don't have a good man beater on 3rd and 5, you're going to see a lot of just like 5 in the rush cover 1. Until you force opposing teams to say, okay, we cannot run this anymore. So if Cyrus can just like beat up on slot corners and progress the sticks another possession every so often, that role in and of itself is valuable to the Chiefs just because of what they've been lacking in that receiver room.
Yeah, I've been looking for a reason to get behind the Chiefs. I've been out on the Chiefs since he got hurt. I want to believe. I could be absolutely wrong. They still probably aren't the favorites for the division, but
that division's insane. That division's insane.
Yeah,
truly. Particularly if the Raiders might be less bad than they were in years past, and who knows what Mendoza is going to play, but like everyone has a guy in that division. Like we believe in the Chargers, we believe in the Broncos, and if you believe in the Chiefs, like who knows?
Do you guys have a feel? I want to hear you guys. When do you guys think Mendoza will play? There's not a should he play, what's the plan, like that. When do you think we will see him?
But week 1, 2, 3, 4, right there.
See, this makes me feel better. I'm 100% with you, and I feel like I'm the only person in the world who's been like, what if we play the first overall pick at quarterback? Man, thank God they're going to rest him all season for Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't know. I feel like Kirk's going to have a 3-interception game in week 2, and we're all going to be like, all right, can we get to the end of the book here? So, yeah, I think we're going to see Mendoza much earlier than people are realizing.
And you believe the result of him getting in early is going to do what to that division that Charlie says is already pretty tough?
I'm not. I think it's a 3-horse race. Yeah. Charlie brought up the Raiders, and I wanted to get your guys' feel on Mendoza because I was on Mina's show, and I pitched like, hey, I think Mendoza's going to get out there earlier than people realize.
Yeah.
And I just got a lot of like insanity, and I was like, I really don't like. I feel like you should play this man who you drafted first overall. He played an RPO offense. Yeah, buddy, they all do. Like, just it's 2026. Get him out there.
What? There's a 3-horse race in that division. Is there a division? There is a division, right? With the 4-horse race, that's the North. That's
the
I
NFC
want to go
North.
there next.
The NFC North.
Go there next. Yeah.
So Kyler Murray, he's won the starting job. I think to none of our surprise.
Shocking.
Yep. But I think there's an interesting thing with the hype around the scene because you brought up how interesting this division is, how it's a 4-horse race. Minnesota's plus 550 to win the division. All of the teams in this division are exciting, but I do think a little bit flawed. Like the Bears are
a lot
very limited on defense. or at least they're projected to be so. The Packers are in desperate need of Parsons back. This Jonathan Gannon defense depends even more than others on getting pressure with 4 and having a Batman pass rusher, and that's what Parsons is. And I think the projections can settle around this, where they do everything the right way in Green Bay. They build everything the right way, but have they taken like this massive leap forward from what they were the last several years when they're always a wild card team? And then the Lions, there's questions about their secondary with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. There's, I think, questions about the offensive stabilization that we saw once Dan Campbell took over and what they're going to be in year 2 without Ben Johnson of this stuff, where they managed to get a lot of the explosives back and the numbers look really good, but they finished 3rd in the division. Well, now you bring in Minnesota, and they're trying to have another year without defensive regression under Brian Flores, who seems like a step ahead of anyone with his ultra-aggressive defense. And you're a team that won 9 games with potentially not great quarterback play from your guy, J.J. McCarthy, who's out of the window. And you bring in Kyler Murray on a really cheap deal where he could overperform. And that's paired with Christian Darrisaw, who's saying he's the healthiest he's been in years. And I look at that and I'm like, this is like a shiny object for me to be like, oh, this is the team. This is the team that can go from, I guess they're technically 3rd in the division, but like bottom of the division to 1st. And even though it's like a highly competitive, almost impossible to pick division.
I wrote before training camp it was like, big, bold, early preseason predictions. I was like, yeah, I think the Vikings are winning the North. Now, are they going to win the North? It's going to be really tight. Like I can't say with great confidence that I'm positive they're better than the Lions or better than the Packers. What I believe very strongly is that I think it's easy to find the Achilles heel for the Bears, Packers, and Lions, and I think it's harder to find it for the Vikings. I'm pretty confident the Bears pass rush is going to be bad. I'm pretty confident the Lions secondary is going to be bad. I'm pretty confident the Packers pass rush is going to be bad before Parsons gets back. And then even then, like they've got 2 young offensive linemen, they've got depth problems in the pass rush. Like it's there. With the Vikings, pretty good roster at all 3 levels, right? Defensive side of the ball, offensive side of the ball. They've invested in the running game and they've improved there at the offensive line. If you're somebody who's a doubter in Kyler Murray overall, then it's like, all right, very easy to circle that this is the Achilles heel. If you're telling me the bar for like functional production in the Kevin O'Connell offense is Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, they may not get there in September. I'm pretty confident they're going to get there at some point, right? I think Kevin O'Connell is good at what he does. I think Justin Jefferson is a really impactful receiver. I think Kyler's been, over the course of his career, good enough to keep that ship afloat, right? Keep that train on the tracks before we even talk about, like, can he elevate the running game? Can he create stuff in the scramble drill? Again, like, all it takes is the Lions offense being elite for them. Okay, well, they're just better than the Vikings. All it takes is like the Jordan Love step back. All right, well, the Packers still win the division, right? So figuring out who wins the division is not an exercise in whose Achilles heel is the hardest to find, right? Those are 2 separate questions, and it's easy to trick ourselves into conflating them. But I think the Vikings are a lot higher floor, more steady, more reliable than people are realizing, because Kyler has this narrative around being extremely like volatile. Whereas I think that, yeah, like he's got some ups and downs and vacillations between like really impactful and more so middle of the road. Not so much big, vacillations between really good and really bad.
I feel more confident that the offense will be good than I do that Brian Flores will dodge regression again. Not because I don't think Brian Flores is a great coach who, like the offensive masterminds, manages to be a step ahead of everyone. I think that the personnel might be a bit more of a challenge. They're going to be relying on young guys to do some of the more complicated things that Brian Flores' defense does. So, like, the reason why it's been kind of regression proof is because he's kind of been ahead mentally of these offensive coaches. And I'm not sure he's going to be able to do that without Harrison Smith, who supposedly was the guy who was making all the decisions for that defense, and without Grenard, the pass rusher. And, like, honestly, last year they started to be less effective with their blitz. And as much as they still blitz a ridiculous amount more than everyone else, but the blitz was less effective. Their changeup last year, for most people, the changeup is the blitz. Their changeup last year that people were surprised by was them showing blitz and not blitzing. And they were actually probably more successful towards the end of the season doing that than they were where they actually blitzed. So I'm not sure how they're going to continue to do all the things. I guess Murphy, but he's in the nickel. Like he seems veteran enough and respected, experienced enough to be able to make those decisions, but he's in the nickel. And having all these other players in new positions to try to understand and do all those things, like, I think it's really difficult. And I guess if Caleb Banks turns out to be the defensive tackle that his ability says he can be, which there's no sign of that right now, given what we've seen, then that changes the defense. But I don't really see the defensive changing or the regression-proof maneuver that Brian Flores has. Yeah. But yeah, he's a smarter defensive mind than I am, so I might look dumb, and I'll be so impressed if he manages to make me look dumb again.
More juice from Dallas Turner, potentially. Just taking that
Dallas Turner had a nice end of the season last year. Real nice.
Yeah.
But I will say, so one, Jamal Adams' injury. The buzz out of Minnesota is like, all right, Jamal's out. Vikings need help at safety. Wonder if Harrison, my boys are in a bad spot, right? They get a little injury, depth chart's a little bit weak. Might have to strap up for one more season, do a little Robert Downey Jr., get back in there for one more movie. So we might get Harrison back. And then Murphy plays the slot, but he kicks outside in base. He's on the field the whole time. And so, he is, I think, right.
No, I think you're misunderstanding what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he won't be on the field. Okay. I'm saying that he'll be in the nickel, which is not the safety position where you'll be able to communicate with everyone in the way that Harrison Smith.
Yeah, because Metellus also, right? It's the same thing. Metellus is so close to the line of scrimmage. You don't actually have that guy in the back, which is a good point. Yeah, I probably underrate the importance of losing Harrison in terms of the on-field communicator and a lot of the straw that stirs the drink in a defense that requires a lot of talking. It's a good point because, like I said, I like a lot of what they've done at corner. And I think that they've made bets at safety to be ready to lose Harrison, but the sort of on-field veteran leadership, when you take that piece out of the Jenga tower, you can make up a lot of the right bets and it just doesn't matter because there isn't the brain on the field. So if I'm off on the Vikings heavily, I think Flores losing Harrison and then accordingly no longer being just the totally immune to regression. My talent doesn't matter. I just beat you on the chalkboard guy. That's a lot more plausible than I'm probably giving it credit for.
All right, should we pivot to the one that I've been dodging? I waited 45 minutes to bring up. This is
Mandos.
Yeah, we need to talk about the Jayden Daniels situation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
he's awesome, man. Let's start with that.
No, let's start with what's going. Yeah, he's apparently looked awesome in David Blau's offense. Fantastic. He's going to be under center more. The offense is going to be way better. Yeah, the Laramie Tunsil injury can't be overstated. It's a disaster. Brandon Thorne dropped the Commanders' offensive line from 11th to 22nd in his line rankings. But I do think having Brandon Coleman, who was the left tackle and made the NFC Championship, of course we lose a massive depth piece there, but it's for a team like the Commanders, as good of a backup as you get in that situation. And, there are other positives. Bill Krosky-Merritt's apparently looked great. The Diggs and Terry stuff it was a huge vibes boost. But now let's just get to it. The whole Jayden Daniels LSU thing it sucks. And I've tried to convince myself that Jayden is completely in the right. They wouldn't give away Joe Burrow's number. He was basically saying, you can keep selling my jerseys until you give away number 5. Then they got to be DJ Pickett jerseys moving forward. But I just need to know this from you, Domonique. How quickly will this go away if Jayden just plays well and he's operating the offense well with Terry McLaurin or Stephon Diggs? Or is this a cloud of bad vibes that's going to portend just inevitable doom for me and my football future?
You know how I feel. It all starts with on the field. If you do something quirky or annoying or stupid off the field and you play well, we think it's cute. If you play poorly, we think you're a loser, and that's terrible. All Jayden got to do is whoop some earlier this season. They got the Eagles. Is that Eagles week 1?
Eagles Cowboys.
Yeah. Eagles Cowboys. You beat the Eagles, beat the Cowboys, and LSU will take the jersey off DJ's back and lift it to the rafters immediately, and we all will think it's super cool. The same thing with how Jayden Daniels' mom is a thing. He was balling at first, and everybody's like, that's super cute. Then he started getting injured, and people are like, this is annoying. Just play well. You do and say whatever the hell you want to do.
Okay, but counterpoint, what if Pickett has 3 picks through the first 4 weeks of the season for LSU, right? What if that guy's playing well, corner 1, wearing number 5? You're going to make him switch to 17?
No,
week
you're
5?
Right. You're right. LSU is done with him. They don't care about him. They rented him for a year. They don't really.
Paul Feinbaum literally said, don't go back there. They're done with him.
He didn't win a natty, which is the difference between him and Joe Burrow.
Here's my number 1 take about the Jayden Daniels asking LSU thing. I think the number 1 piece of advice that I've received over my career in sports media to this point, as I have attempted to learn how to be an actual reporter and a journalist, and you interact with sources and PR teams, is every old head journalist has to tell you, listen, the worst they can say is no. That's not true, all right? The worst they can do is start leaking, and then they're posting pictures of the guy wearing 5 on the social, and there's MLB teams being like, we stopped at 4 runs today in honor of Jayden Daniels, right? No is never the worst thing they can do. Don't ask stupid stuff because it can get worse than a no.
Oh, I like that we're talking about future Hall of Famer Jayden Daniels, and you're like, you know what? Reminds me of me.
I don't think you realize, Ben, I've been trying to contort myself to defend this for the last several days. It is so rough to just only open any social media platform I have and see a different cringe meme from a different social media manager that's just mocking me.
Yeah.
Yep.
Transcends
Right.
sports.
Everywhere.
It's like Ticketmaster or something. They're mocking you. They don't sell 5 tickets anymore like everybody.
They said Washington Commanders teams will only be slapping 4s when they when they get out of the huddle in honor of Jayden Daniels wearing 5. It's like, listen, this it will have so many legs because it's the lowest hanging fruit until, as Domonique says, something else happens. So hopefully you win some bowl games. Hopefully somebody else does something silly with some other NIL jersey number thing, and then it dies out. But for now, it's what we've got, and it's what everybody running a social media account for PetSmart, Meijer Groceries, get your Sam's Club. Everybody's got this, and that's what we're gonna be hitting for the rest of the time.
Is there ever been a more must-win first 2 games this season for a team?
Must win.
This is you are in your own little bubble right now. In your own little bubble. This is not a must win. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna play well. They're gonna have success, and then it's going to get over the hump to where everyone thinks it's cute, and Jayden is in on the joke. You just wait. This is what's gonna happen. Like this is the journey that these things go on. He's under it right now. He plays well. Then he'll start making jokes about it, and it will all be fine with it. It'll be just a road bump that we don't, a speed bump that we don't think about anymore.
This is literally, it just gives me flashbacks to the Snyder era. This is stuff that would have happened in the Dan Snyder era.
Right, but in the Snyder era, if this happened, it would have been a Friday news drop at 4, right? Y'all were frying bigger fish back in the day.
It's a good point. It's a good point.
You of all people, I think you should appreciate how low level your scandals are now.
Yeah,
I
right.
know, but I'm worried that Josh Harris is he's like, I got LeBron, I got Jaylen Brown. I'm very distracted. I'm a basketball guy.
You're trying
As
to
a
get Ben
Sixers
excited.
fan, yes,
Trying to
you
get
should be worried about Josh Harris at all times. That is the correct feeling.
Are you happy with him right now as a Sixers fan?
I'm happy with our new GM, who's
Gansey.
Gansey, yeah. I always want to call him Gansey. Listen, Daryl Morey, shout out the nerds, shout out the 3-pointer, shout out Sloan MIT conference. Ooh, baby, it's nice having somebody in the building who runs ball. Oh man, it's nice having somebody in the building who runs the team, isn't it? Let's go, Sixers and 6.
What do you rank this offseason for you as a sports fan?
Oh man,
Is this you got Jaylen Brown.
Yes.
And I'm sure thrilled. Got him from Boston, excited.
yes.
Then LeBron shows up. This has to be up there. Top 3 off seasons for you.
And I would say it's one also in part because like in the past when something just incredible would happen in Philadelphia sports, that would be fun for me. When the Sixers signed LeBron, I was able to run to my 2-year-old daughter and be like, do you want daddy to buy you a LeBron James Sixers jersey? And she says what she always says after every question, which is, yeah. And like, she doesn't know, but the sharing of it now just changes the nature of it. I can't wait to watch that home opener and like force the girls to stay up with me, and their mother will be very upset with me, but I don't care. So we can watch our LeBron James jerseys, and we'll just have those pictures forever, and that's the part of it that I think is fun.
Aw, it's like a wholesome note.
That was so sweet.
Oh no, I can't even make fun of that. It's just beautiful.
Can I make fun of the worst social media post at training camp, which you brought up briefly? Ben,
Are we doing Jalen Hurts interception discourse? I swear to I haven't.
No. I think this thing
Don't get scared, Charlie. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it.
No, we are doing
sit
it.
down and you're gonna like it.
We are doing it. I want to be very clear. The Eagles are loaded, and the defense is going to be incredible.
They're gonna be so good.
But you posted right on cue that now has 17 million views on Twitter of Jalen Hurts, who's just been absolutely flamed for not being able to throw over the middle, to right on cue throwing an interception over the middle to Quinyon Mitchell. Like, that's a tough scene.
So when I first saw that, you understand how many times I had to check and how many different ways I was like, I know Twitter's broken. I know that somebody figured out how to get an Eagles check mark. I was like, this is not right. It was amazing the way that
you're anti them posting it? You think it's bad?
No. I'm not anti them posting it. I'm saying it shocked the out of me because I was like,
about to get hacked.
Yeah, I thought something happened because right on cue, to Charlie's point, over the middle, he throws an interception. I know Quinyon starts with a Q. I got it as I saw Quinyon.
I actually didn't get it until you explained it to me over text. I really didn't.
Okay.
As soon as you texted, I was like, oh, Quinyon Mitchell. That makes way more sense. I was that dumb.
I didn't get it immediately, but I was like, right on cue. All right, so he's about to eat over the middle of the field. They're showing us that. And there was an interception. I was waiting for the ball to bounce out and so I to catch it. Then I started checking the check marks, and I was looking, this is not right. So then I looked again. I was like, oh, Quinyon Mitchell. I was like, oh, y'all up.
It's like, I don't know about people calling him Q, but they probably call him Q that's in the building, right? Yeah. The social media name for him has always been Guantanamo Bay, which is a little bit of a reach, but is also pretty funny. I think you do need to know a little bit better ball in terms of the over the middle of the field specifically, right? Because that's where like the discourse is going to be heightened because there would be so many nerd accounts, myself included, quote and be like, Jalen Hurts since 2022 to 2025 throwing over the middle of the field, blah, 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 blah. So that, I agree. You got to have a little bit more awareness of that from the social team. Other than that, man, Vic Fangio said like 3 days before they posted this, he was like, Quinny Mitchell still doesn't have a regular season interception. So it was like the right on cue of it was Vic saying, we're still waiting for his first regular season pick. And then he goes and makes a pick in training camp. Okay, right on cue. I think that was a theory.
Yeah, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Maybe you're right. But it actually reminds me of something our friend Bomani Jones points out, the distinction between the motivation of a social media team and the motivation of everyone else. They knew how to get them numbers up.
I'm about to say, yeah.
They knew how to get them numbers up.
That infographic and the job review is going to work in February. Nobody's going to remember how.
They take exactly all them numbers. They were like, ooh, you got
highest
a pop.
performing team social account in training camp NFL history. Don't worry about how.
Don't worry about it. We getting them numbers up. Congratulations for throwing
job security, baby.
Yeah, throwing your man under the bus to get it done. And I'm sure he's not hurt. He don't even care. He's not thinking about it. He's fine.
No. The social media team came up to Jalen the next day and they're like, listen, man, we're sorry we didn't know. And he was like, listen, you know, a shark can only swim forward or something. Just banal motivation quote book nonsense and kept it moving.
I like that. Congratulations. Well, thank you so much for joining us and adding knowledge in comedy and some heart to this episode. Appreciate you so much, Ben Solak. Good luck to you and your daughters on this Sixers season. Thanks a lot, Charlie Kravitz, for hooking us up. All the great producers, thank you. Brian Madigan, Megan McHale, Kevin O'Brien, Ryan Cortez. We out. I'm gonna get better at that. I gotta rattle them off. I change the order every time.
That's very big money of you to be like, and of course the people who helped me, Kevin, Brian.
Yeah. I'm not. All right, do it again. Here we go. Thanks a lot. Brian Madigan, Kevin O'Brien, Megan McHale, Ryan Cortez. We out. Still not smooth.
We're leaving it all in.
This is the Domonique Foxworth Show.